Okay, so through two games, the James Harden, Joel Embiid thing seems kind of perfect. The amount of free throws that they had against the Knicks today was pretty obscene, especially on Embiid's part. To talk about the two-man game, we've had moments where Embiid was rolling real hard to the rim. There was a very nice bounce pass from Harden to him in this Knicks game. We've also had times where Harden is starting from the wing or the corner, and then he's moving and getting a handoff action from Embiid, which then allows him to get downhill. And that's been a bit of a thing with Harden throughout his career. Like, how much is he really willing to move off ball? I remember I think it might have been his first three against the Wolves where he relocated to the corner off of a Tobias Harris drive from the opposite wing. So that was interesting. Speaking of Tobias, or just the rest of the Sixers, they're, of course, benefiting off of the Harden Embiid two-man game. I mean, I remember there was one pass in this one from Harden to Maxey, where Maxey had some room on the corner after Embiid was rolling to the rim. Maxey, I think he pump faked, drove inside, got a bucket. Thibault cut, or actually he was in the dunker spot after relocating from the opposite corner right before the Embiid Harden action began, and he got himself an easy bucket under the rim. Harden just got it right to him right away. We've also gotten a decent amount of Harden pick and pops with Embiid, where Embiid kind of slides to about the free throw line or right above it, and then gets to that mid-range. And we've also had a whole bunch of those actions which then lead to fouls, where it's like Embiid, he does the thing where he kind of floats to the free throw line off of the screen, and then from there it's pump fake, couple dribbles inside, draw the foul off of like the hook shot or just something after he draws the contact. You know what I mean. Things get awkward when dudes are running into each other. And then you, of course, have just the individual moments of Harden and Embiid, where Harden will just beat his guy on an ISO, or make a step back three, or Embiid will bring it up himself off of a rebound and then just basically barrel into Mitchell Robinson and get two free throws. You've also got Doc staggering minutes right now. That's all nice. As far as the defense, I think Harden has been active, which, as we know, has been half the battle for him at times throughout his career defensively, as well as moving off ball on offense, as we talked about a little earlier. And the other thing defensively is, of course, Joel Embiid exists, so there you go. Who can beat this team in a playoff series? Well, let me establish real quick. They're going to be challenged. There's good teams in the East and all that stuff. Anyway, if I was going to pick one team that could guard them, it would be the Bucks if Brook Lopez was healthy. I know they made the Ibaka trade. I'm just going to be straight up. I don't think the Ibaka trade is going to fix not having Brook. Now, I guess they will have Brook for at least some games in the regular season. There was a picture I saw recently of him at practice, so that's cool. Whether he'll be ready to go like that, I don't know. I get it, the Giannis at center lineups, it provides them more versatility. That's all cool. You can also say Drew Holiday's picking up James Harden full court. Great, love it. But we've seen them at their best with a 7-footer protecting the basket. With that said, the Sixers need to guard them as well. And I really do want to see the Giannis Embiid dynamic in a playoff series. I know everybody wants a Nets Sixers playoff series, and I do as well. But I think a Bucks Sixers series is the one I want the most in the Eastern Conference. Also, by the way, those games would be 3 hours long because between Harden, Embiid, and Giannis, there would actually be like 40 free throws attempted, let alone everybody else who would be in that series. I guess I'll talk about the Nets just because I mentioned them real quick. I mean, again, I don't know when the hell we're going to see this actual team. They're currently in the play-in tournament. Do I think the Nets can guard the Sixers team? So here's the thing. Even amongst all of the who the hell actually plays for this team stuff this year, the Nets had a pretty decently long stretch of being one of the better defensive teams in the league. You could just say that was because they got lucky on teams missing threes. Their defense has, of course, slipped lately, but eventually just not having their dudes caught up with them so much is pretty understandable, right? You imagine Ben Simmons, I mean, obviously Ben's got to be out there. Bruce Brown, he's physical. You could put him on Harden, hope for the best. Might have to have James Johnson out there. KD's, of course, a good team defender. My fear is the centers. I don't think any of those centers can deal with Embiid. I just don't think they got the guys for him. Granted, nobody does, but I would give Bam a better chance than I would anybody on the Nets, you know what I mean? There is a chance in the playoffs Steve Nash just has to go, you know what, screw it, we can't stop you, we're just going to try to outscore you. And they've got the weapons, they've got the shooting, of course Kevin Durant, Kyrie. I mentioned Bam, so to talk about Miami, if the Bucks are not the team that can guard the Sixers just because of the Brook thing, which is freaking me out more and more each day, it could be Miami. The combination of Jimmy, Bam, Tucker, Lowry, just the amount of strength and smarts and switchability that those guys have. I mean, we've seen Lowry defend guys much bigger than him before, and yeah, sure, he's going to probably get away with a foul or two in the process of doing it, but he's been able to do it, right? And you've also got Spoelstra and just the way that he'll flip that defense out of nowhere to where it's suddenly we're switching everything. Next 2 possessions, we're trapping more often. There's never going to be a perfect solution to this Harden Embiid thing. You switch, one of them's probably got a mismatch. Although Miami could tell themselves, well, after the switch, it's Bam on Harden and it's PJ Tucker on Embiid. We'll live with that. We're going to have to help PJ out a bit, but he can hold up for a moment there, right? And that's something we'll see. I mean, when defenses throw extra attention at these guys, it comes back to, is Harden cutting to the rim? Is he relocating around the three-point line? Is Thibault going to cut to the basket or whatever? There's all of that, plus the obvious of these other guys are just going to have to make threes. And the one dude you're looking at there is Tobias, who's had a shaky season from outside. The other thing with a Heat-Sixers series is I do think about Miami's half-court offense with Embiid waiting for them at the basket, because that has been the one thing with the Heat this year where there's times where it's like, oh man, it's Jimmy dribbling the air out of the ball, or we love Lowry, but it's not like he can just beat his defender off the dribble consistently. Jimmy's great, but with him, so much of it is grinding his way to the free throw line or to the basket, similar to Embiid and Harden, right? And if you got Joel Embiid waiting for you at the rim, it just gets a little tougher. I mean, we saw in the Bucks Heat series from last year, I mean, Brook was just planting himself in front of the rim, and the Heat were basically just like, we don't know what the hell to do right now. On top of Giannis was also guarding Jimmy more often. You've also got Chicago, and you think with a healthy Lonzo and Caruso, you can throw those two at Harden and perhaps slow him down. I think Io could help you out there as well. There could be something there between Vooch's shooting and does Embiid want to go all the way out to defend him? And like, there's something to be had there, and whether that means they put somebody else on Vooch, but then, Bulls might post up with him, but then that's more possessions that aren't going through DeRozan or whatever. It's the playoff chess match, of course. Again, the Sixers will be challenged. Who else is in the East? I would love for my Celtics to pull off an all-time upset against Philly, but the Sixers have the 2 best players in that series. The Celtics defense would have to be like all-time amazing, which to be fair, it has been for like a month and a half now. But the switch almost everything defense, that's great until you're facing Joel Embiid. And yeah, sure, Grant Williams or Marcus Smart or whoever, they might be able to handle it for a moment or two. Then you bring help, and then suddenly, once again, the conversation of movement off ball, Harden, all that stuff. And sure, you can have Marcus and Derek White hounding James Harden as much as possible. You can have Time Lord as basically your free safety where you put him on a blast shooter and it allows him to free roam a little bit more. But it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell for everybody. I think one day Jared Allen and Evan Mobley could be your perfect front court to deal with Joel Embiid. Is it going to happen in Mobley's rookie season? Probably not. So yeah, Philly's really good.